the caretaker of my football program, is the head football coach of the University of Miami. He is Manny Diaz, and he joins me now. And before I start this out, I got to let you see this, Coach. Okay, there's all my Miami stuff there. Look, there's my national championship rings. There's all the game balls I won from Jimmy. Okay, it was my first day when I was with the pros there, and I'm so proud of what you're doing with the University of Miami. Welcome aboard, Coach.
Thanks, Dan. Well, we got a hell of a legacy to live up to, that people like you created. So it's a great challenge every day, but it's been fun, and our staff and our players they're up for it. That's why you come to UM.
You know, Coach, I just got through saying that I can't wait to see the fans back in the stands. And, maybe in the NFL, the NFL is such a television sport. College football is such pageantry around it. All the places that we go and we play games. I got to think that you're so looking forward to seeing fans back in the stands, especially at Hard Rock.
It's everything. I mean, you can't really separate college football with the fans, and I went to a Florida Panthers playoff hockey game last night, and that's really the first sporting event I've been at in over a year that had almost full capacity. And I'll tell you, it's an emotional experience. I mean, you forget what it's like to be around people. I've been, our games were very spaced out. I've been to a baseball game and an NBA game with very small crowds. And so when we open up in Mercedes-Benz with Alabama and every seat is filled and everybody's on song and going crazy, it's going to be an emotional night. And so it's hard enough to play in an opener. It's hard to play in an opener against the defending national champions. So our players got to be emotionally very tough to just handle that environment, because it's so awesome. But you got to make sure that you don't ride the roller coaster of what will be certainly in a very emotional day.
Yeah, and Coach, you brought the juju last night to him too, man. They ended up beating the Lightning last night too. I saw the pictures last night. So you brought the love into the BB&T arena last night. That was cool, man. That was a great environment.
It was. I love to take credit, but that 20-year-old goalie that went in there and played like a vet, you got to give him. I think he might deserve a little bit more credit than me.
Absolutely.
Got to get my part.
Absolutely. All right, hey, Coach, I had Ed Ogeron and Mario Cristobal on with us a couple days ago, and I was asking him the question about, how tough it was last year, not just to put a game plan together, a schedule that wobbled all the time because of the COVID-19 protocols that the ACC and the CDC put in there. How tough was it taking phone calls from parents every night wondering whether or not it was safe? I mean, you couldn't just be a coach last year, could you?
No, we would do group Zooms with a lot of the parents to answer the questions. It's funny, a year ago, we forget what it was like right now. And all the articles right now were no way will we play football. And I got to brag on our president of our university. Dr. Frank, who is an expert in pandemics, is the one that came out and was adamant that we can go to school in person, starting in the fall semester, and it is safe enough to play college football. And that was a very lonely argument. Not a lot of people were saying that. And I think his leadership propelled the ACC presidents to feel good about playing and ultimately create some of the momentum. But Dan, I promise you, there's not a day I went to work last fall and what you expected, you got. There was going to be some problem that you could not anticipate. You knew it was coming. You didn't know which one it was, and you never got what you wanted. And we talked about that as a team. It's a little bit like game day every day. You make a great game plan. You remember from your time playing, you plan for everything. Something's going to happen on game day that you just could not anticipate, and that was really almost 7 days a week last fall.
Coach, I've talked to Parcells about this, Bill Parcells about this numerous times, and I've talked to all coaches when they make that transition from being a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator to being a head coach. And Parcells told me, he goes, I sucked my first year as a head coach when I was with the Giants. He goes, it wasn't that I didn't know how to be a coach. It's just that I didn't know how to delegate my time. And I had to work at that, and I had to be disciplined because my mentality as a defensive guy, I've got to be disciplined on the entire group and the entire part of the team, special teams, backups, offense, defense. That transition for you, it just seems like last year it's night and day from the first year to where you are even right now. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think actually, you mentioned Bill Parcells. I think in his book he said his first year he was trying to be the head coach of the New York Giants, and the second year he was trying to be Bill Parcells. And certainly that's a part of it, because there's just nothing that can prepare you for being a head coach. You can be mentored. I've been so lucky to be around a bunch of great ones. They can try to delegate you authority, but until you really are aware of everything that comes on your shoulders, there's nothing like it. And so, yeah, I think the whole key, like you would tell a player or like anybody, is to be a quick learner. And the things you don't do well, you try to correct them as soon as possible. And that's ultimately what our program's about. We're trying to, get better in all phases, and it's all my responsibility if I see something that I know we can do a better way to be decisive and get it right.
You know what I love also about your background and your family background and being part of the community? You are the community. Your family is the community. You know what that program means. I mean, we used to be bigger than the Miami Dolphin guys, in those communities back in the day. There's just something about the University of Miami. It's in a big city, but yet the community looks at that program with such reverence. And for you and your family to be part of that whole thing, I mean, you've been a Miami Hurricane fan since you were a little kid. I mean, how important is that for you when you're going around knocking on kids' doors too? Hey, I know where you're from. I know you're at Edison. I know you're at Palmetto. I know these schools. I've been around these places.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, really. And part of it, I love coaching South Florida players. I mean, there's something about it. Starts in the youth levels and the high school coaches, and there's and no matter what stop I've been, anytime we've had South Florida guys on our team, I mean, I've just always been drawn to them with the toughness that they bring. But it also, there's a lot of responsibility too, because everybody in this community has really high standards for the Hurricanes, and no one greater than me. That's why when we don't play well and we lose and everybody's pissed, I promise you, no one's more pissed than I, because it hurts me to see the Hurricanes not play well, just like it does anybody else. And the cool thing is I have an opportunity to fix it. And sometimes you can't always make the fixes as fast as you'd like, but what's key is you identify your issues, you get them corrected, and you move on. You'll find more issues. That's how life goes, and you just keep progressing, and that's how you build your program to where we all think Miami should be.
Some of the questions about this group going into the 2021 season. D'Eriq King, how are we looking with his progress? Will he be there for the opening week against Alabama?
Yeah, D'Eriq right now is all good to go. He's meeting all of his benchmarks. They think, by the summer, by training camp, he should be cleared to go. D'Eriq, you would have to literally chain him to the bench to keep that guy off the field against Alabama. That's his MO. He's a warrior. He's attacked everything we've done in with the training regimen. If anything, we got to slow him down, because that's who he is, and it'll be fun to it's fun to already watch him back out, throwing passes in the indoor and getting around the guys.
Coach, I've said that of all the coaches in the country that I talked to, Nick Saban, all the guys, Clay Helton, I think you've done the best job when it comes to the transfer portal, and I compare it to college football free agency. When you're at a place like Bama, Tennessee, or Miami, or even some of these big programs, sometimes you're 10 deep at a place. I mean, look at Alvin Kamara. He didn't get a chance at Alabama. He goes to Tennessee, gets a chance to become a star. He gets drafted, and now he's a superstar in the NFL. You've utilized it, but yet it's a part of the program, but it doesn't define the program. Is there a balance there with that you're looking at always to make sure, hey, it's kind of like something just to fill gaps. It's not going to define our program.
Absolutely. That's it. It's like the NFL, like you mentioned. Every good team wants to build through the draft, but you do have a chance in free agency to address, maybe you drafted a great guy and he left it in free agency, and you've got to be able to replace him. We could have had a great recruit that went pro early, and suddenly we lack an older guy at a spot. And so we've tried to be very particular. Let's be honest, Dan, we had some holes in our roster that we had to fix, so that was part of it also. It was part of necessity. But there's another element as well, is that what we're finding is that when players have already they've already gone through the recruiting cycle once, they're looking for different things the second time around. And Miami really resonates with what they're looking for. When you're 17 or 18, it's easy to get fooled on a 48-hour official visit weekend and think that, this place might be where you want to really spend the next 4 years. Then you get there and you realize what you were sold on. And for our transfers have all had very good success here at Miami. I think they're building it. They come in with other like-minded people, and they've enjoyed. I know this word gets thrown around, but they've enjoyed our culture, not just of the city, but in our program, and that's why not only are we getting great transfers, but we're not losing a lot of players. The players want to stay here in Miami, and they want to come to Miami when they're a little more mature about the process than they are when they're first time through as high school recruits.
Yeah, I mean, I was a transfer. I transferred away from Maryland, and I went to Miami, and I fell in love with the culture there. Coach, the whole process too, when you're talking that transfer portal, how much do you have to go back and recruit your own kids on your own roster sometimes? I mean, if this is a constant movable door here, do you have to recruit your own kids too?
You absolutely have to. I mean, every great story in Miami Hurricanes lore, it starts on Green Tree practice field with the competition. Think about the D line when you were there, and the mentality now, because as you know, a great defensive line, let's use that as an example, is defined by how good your backups are. So when your starters get tired, you come in, there's no drop off. You can empty the tank. Next guy comes in, empties the tank, and you just wear down an offense like that. Backup, do I want to be a backup? Do I want to transfer? So to be able to try to sell something bigger than the self and recognize that, Ed Reed said it best to our team. Your individual goals come through the team meeting its goals. When the team meets its goals, the individuals generally meet all their goals. When the team wins, everybody wins. And, that's a harder concept now at times to sell. I think our players are starting to understand it. The best teams always do. But there's a lot of counter information out there saying, hey, get that immediate gratification and find something and get in the portal. And that's why there's, I think, over 4,000 kids in the portal right now without a place to be.
I used to tell people I'm not coming out like a Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind me. Are you kidding me, man? I had Reggie Wayne on. We were doing a show a couple months ago, and Reggie goes, "Man, I'm not coming out. I got Andre Johnson behind me, man."
Yeah.
nobody comes out. Final question for you, Coach. The national championship semifinals. Are you a fan of the way it's set up now, or do you think there needs to be expansion of either the committee, or do you think there needs to be more teams involved in the entire playoff process?
Dan, I may be an outlier on this. I don't think there's a question. The playoff needs to be expanded, and it needs to be expanded greatly. People think about the playoff as a means to determine a champion. That's not what playoffs are. Ask the NBA, ask the NFL, ask anybody. Playoffs are about showcasing the best of your league. That's why they invite 16 teams in the NHL, and they got opt-in games, or whatever they call them now, play-in games in the NBA. The most fundamental threat to our sport right now is the opt-out. We had 7 players drafted in the first round this past year without playing a snap of college football a year ago. And that trend is only going to continue. We have to create more meaningful games, not less meaningful games. Everybody says in college football, the regular season has always been our playoff. It's mattered. It's not mattering anymore. North Carolina had the best season they've ever had in school history. Their top 4 players opted out of the best bowl game they've ever been in. University of Florida made the Cotton Bowl, which is a very elite bowl, and they almost sent the JV squad and got murdered by Oklahoma. Nobody wants to watch that on TV. And I love the bowls, and I love the way things have been. But we've got to find a way to make more games mean more. And, whether we go to 24 like FCS does. Now, think about that. Think about a 24-team playoff, and you got a team playing the last week. You got a rivalry game. You got Clemson, South Carolina the last weekend, and South Carolina's ranked 26th. They got to beat Clemson to get in the tournament. And maybe Clemson loses a bye in the first round if they lose. I mean, and the drama, everybody loves the rivalry. Ohio State, Michigan, same thing. Maybe one team, maybe if Michigan loses, they're out of the playoff. Ohio State's not just for bragging rights. It's big time. And I'll be honest, I don't see how our game can proceed without it, because it's not good for coaches. It's not good for players. It's not good for anybody if the best players that everybody wants to see are not playing college football. And I'm not against that. We had a great, Greg Rousseau did that for us, and that's a personal choice that I get. But if we want to protect our game, I think we got to get into the modern era, and we got to have a playoff like every other sport does in our country.
I think you're so right. Coach, think about that for a minute. You're putting it on the kid like Rousseau, who is a first-round draft choice, and you're saying this. and I'm just making a bowl up, and you got to go play in like the Fruit Loop Bowl. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be a top 15 kid. I'm gonna make a couple $1,000,000, and you want me to go out? I saw Kevin Fagan blow his knee out in the Sugar Bowl, and he was going to be the 5th player taken in the draft. He ended up going in the 6th round and lost millions of dollars. I mean, I just think, like you said, there's got to be an answer to it, and hopefully we can come to that conclusion. Coach, I can't wait for the opener against Alabama. I tell people this all the time. Let's go play 60. Those dudes lost every guy in that offense, and you know what? I feel pretty good about going after these guys on Labor Day weekend, and I can't wait. Coach, thank you so much for doing this.
Dan, my pleasure. Yep, appreciate you and everything you do.
You bet, man. Coach Manny Diaz, head football coach at the University of Miami. And